Here's part one of the story in approximately 670 words using simple English and third-person style. Jack Miller stood at the observation window, his eyes fixed on the massive alien ship hovering over Washington, D.C. It had appeared 3 days ago, causing panic at first, then awe as the world realized what was happening. Humanity was no longer alone. "They're ready for us," said Lisa Johnson, adjusting her translator earpiece. The xenolinguist had been working nonstop since the first transmission arrived. "How confident are you in the translation matrix?" Jack asked. Lisa sighed. "About 80%. Their language has subtle variations that suggest layers of meaning we might miss." The helicopter took them to the landing zone, where the alien delegation had agreed to meet. Military personnel formed a perimeter around a hastily constructed platform. World leaders and their representatives waited nervously as a beam of light appeared from the ship's underside. 5 figures materialized on the platform. They stood nearly 7 feet tall with iridescent blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. Their 4 eyes, 2 large, 2 small, scanned the humans with obvious curiosity. The central figure stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Axeltoth of the Galactic Concordat. We greet Earth and welcome you to the greater community of stars." President Martinez nodded. "On behalf of Earth, we welcome you and hope for peaceful relations between our peoples." The ambassador's upper eyes blinked slowly. "We have observed your world for some time. Your species shows promise despite your technological limitations." Jack noticed Lisa frown at the translation. She scribbled something on her notepad and showed it to him, condescension in tone. "They view us as primitive." The meetings continued for days. The Concordat offered limited technology, medical advances, more efficient energy systems, and faster transportation methods. In exchange, they wanted access to Earth's abundant resources, particularly rare metals and biological samples. Behind closed doors, Earth's nations debated the implications. "They're treating us like a primitive colony," Jack said during an emergency United Nations session. "The technology they're offering is impressive by our standards, but basic by theirs." Lisa projected her findings on the screen. Their language contains subtle hierarchical markers. When they refer to Earth, they use terms that translate roughly to developing or emerging, but the connotation is closer to immature or childlike. "So they're patronizing us," said the British representative. "Exactly," Lisa replied. "And they're carefully controlling what technology they share. Nothing weapons-related. Nothing that would help us travel beyond our solar system." The Russian delegate leaned forward. "Perhaps we should demonstrate that we are not as primitive as they believe." "No," Jack said firmly. "Our best strategy is to appear grateful and compliant while we learn as much as possible. They're offering us a window into galactic civilization. We need to use it wisely." 2 weeks after first contact, Earth signed a preliminary agreement with the Concordat. Ambassador Axeltoth seemed pleased. "You have chosen wisely. The Concordat will guide your development as we have for many emerging worlds." That evening, Jack found Lisa working late in her office. "What have you found?" he asked. She looked up from her screens. "I've been analyzing their database entries about other species. The Concordat has encountered thousands of civilizations. Most remain in subordinate positions centuries after first contact." "So this is their pattern," Jack said quietly. "Yes, but there's something else." Lisa pulled up a chart. "According to their assessments, humans have unusual adaptive capabilities. We learn faster, improvise better, and show greater genetic variation than 90% of known species." Jack smiled slightly. "They don't realize what that means, do they?" "No," Lisa replied. "They've classified Earth as a Class 3 pre-warp society, technologically immature but resource-rich, perfect for exploitation." Jack looked out the window at the alien ship glowing against the night sky. "Then we'll play along for now. Let them think we're primitive while we prepare." "Prepare for what?" Lisa asked. "For the day they discovered just how wrong they were about humanity." Kate Williams watched the Concordat scientists scan the particle accelerator with their advanced devices. Their expressions, as much as alien faces could show emotion, revealed a mix of surprise and dismissal. "Your approach is innovative, though primitive," said Chief Scientist Zolvek. "You achieved results despite your limited understanding of quantum principles." Kate bit her tongue. For weeks, the aliens had been conducting their civilization assessment across Earth. They tested human technology, studied government systems, and evaluated cultural development, always with the same conclusion: promising but primitive. "Might I ask about your own particle research?" Kate asked politely. "Our methods surpassed this stage 8,000 years ago," Zolvek replied. "We could show you the basics, but the advanced principles would be difficult for humans to grasp." Kate nodded and smiled. Later, she met with Ryan Phillips, Earth's chief diplomat to the Concordat, in a secure room swept for surveillance devices. "They're deliberately withholding information," Kate said. "They'll demonstrate technology, but skip critical steps in explaining how it works." Ryan nodded grimly. "Same with their political briefings. They describe galactic governance, but leave out key details about how decisions are made or resources allocated." The door opened and Jack Miller entered with Lisa Johnson. "We've been granted limited access to the galactic database," Lisa said. "Heavily restricted, but still valuable." Jack activated a holographic display showing star systems and species classifications. The Concordat has cataloged over 4,000 intelligent species. Humans are classified as Class 3, technologically developing but biologically advanced. "What does biologically advanced mean?" Ryan asked. Kate pointed to comparative data charts. "Our adaptability. Humans can survive in a wider range of environments than most species. We heal faster, reproduce more easily, and learn more quickly." "The Concordat doesn't see these as advantages," Lisa added. "To them, technology is the only true measure of advancement. They've placed restrictions on our development," Jack said, showing an official directive. "No independent space expansion beyond Mars. No weapons development using Concordat principles. Limited access to galactic trade networks." Ryan frowned. "They're containing us, while extracting our resources," Kate added. "The mining operations they've established in Africa and South America are taking materials far more valuable in galactic markets than they've admitted." Jack switched the display to show Earth's new status. "The Concordat has designated Earth as a protected developing world. It sounds benevolent, but it legally restricts our sovereignty under their galactic laws." "There's more," Lisa said quietly. "I've been translating their internal communications. A faction led by Commander Verital believes humans are potentially dangerous and recommends stricter containment protocols." Kate leaned forward. "Based on what?" "Our history of conflict, our rapid technological advancement over just a few centuries, and our biological resilience." Lisa displayed a genetic analysis. "They're fascinated by our adaptive immune systems and regenerative capabilities." "So what do we do?" Ryan asked. Jack smiled slightly. "We continue to be the grateful primitives they expect while accelerating our preparations. Every piece of technology they show us, we study and reverse engineer. Every bit of data from their networks, we analyze." "I've established contact with scientists in 30 countries," Kate said. "We're sharing findings and working on integrating Concordat principles with our technology. And I'm building relationships with representatives from other developing worlds." Ryan added. "Many have been under Concordat influence for centuries." A notification beeped on Lisa's tablet. "We have to go. The Concordat Council is announcing Earth's official status in the galactic community." As they walked to the ceremony, Kate whispered to Jack, "How long before they realize we're not as primitive as they think?" Jack watched the aliens moving confidently through the human crowd, completely unaware of what was happening behind the scenes. "Hopefully," he said quietly, not until it's too late for them to do anything about it. Alan Becker slipped the data card into his pocket and walked casually through the Concordat embassy. 6 months after first contact, the aliens had established permanent facilities in major cities across Earth. As an intelligence officer assigned as a cultural liaison, Alan had carefully cultivated the trust of lower-ranking Concordat officials. "Leaving early today, Alan?" asked a Concordat security officer. "Family dinner," Alan replied with a smile. "My wife makes pot roast on Thursdays." Once clear of the embassy, Alan took an indirect route to the secure facility beneath the old library. The team was waiting for him in the conference room. "I found something," he said, plugging the data card into their isolated system. "Mining reports from 12 worlds classified as developing like Earth." Susan Garcia, the team's biologist, leaned forward. "What do they show?" "Resource extraction at devastating levels," Alan explained as charts appeared on screen. Planet Era 417 saw 90% of its rare metals removed in just 30 years. Its native civilization collapsed after ecological damage made their agricultural systems fail. Jack Miller studied the data grimly, and the Concordat's response. They classified it as a natural evolutionary failure and relocated the survivors as refugee labor to Concordat core worlds. Lisa Johnson shook her head. "This matches patterns I've found in their historical archives. They'd been doing this for thousands of years." Susan pulled up her own findings. "There's more. I've analyzed their medical scans of human volunteers. They're mapping our genetic code with special attention to our adaptability traits and immune responses." "Weapon development?" Kate Williams asked. "No," Susan replied. "More like cataloging. They're especially interested in our ability to survive in diverse environments and our shorter generational cycles." Ryan Phillips entered the room, looking troubled. "The Concordat just announced new protection guidelines. They're restricting Earth ships from approaching any of their orbital facilities and limiting our communications with other worlds." "Containment is accelerating," Jack noted. "What about our preparations?" Kate activated a secure display. 27 countries are now part of the Phoenix Protocol. We've successfully reverse-engineered basic Concordat propulsion and power systems. Material science is advancing rapidly with insights from their technology. The underground manufacturing facilities in Australia and Canada are operational," Ryan added, "and we've established secure communication with resistance groups on 3 other Concordat-controlled worlds." Alan pointed to a blinking notification on his terminal. "Speaking of which, we just received a transmission from Proxima Centauri. It's encrypted using the protocol we shared with the Centaurians." The message appeared on screen. "Vivoer the harvest. Concorde patioran estabilished. First resources, then genetics, then control. 53 worlds before yours. Tori pair." Silence filled the room. The Centaurians were classified as primitive when the Concordat arrived at their world 80 years ago, Lisa said quietly. "Now they're fully under Concordat control." Jack stood up. "We need to accelerate our timeline." Susan, focus on understanding what they want from our genetics. Kate, prioritize weapons development. Helen, we need more intelligence on their fleet capabilities. What about the diplomatic track? Ryan asked. "Keep smiling and playing the grateful primitive," Jack replied. "We need more time." The meeting was interrupted by an emergency alert. President Martinez appeared on screen. As of 600 hours, the Concordat has declared a no-fly zone extending to Mars, citing security concerns after detecting unauthorized technology development. They've positioned 3 warships in Earth orbit. The president's expression hardened. "Initiate Phoenix Protocol Stage 2. Effective immediately." After the transmission ended, Susan looked at the team. "They're moving faster than we expected." Jack nodded grimly. "But they still don't realize what they're dealing with. Commander Vrital sees us as dangerous primitives to be contained. He doesn't understand that throughout our history, nothing has made humans more innovative or more lethal then feeling trapped. Ellen checked his weapon. "So what's our next move?" "We show them," Jack said, exactly why they should have taken us seriously. Eric Foster knew something was wrong the moment the Concordat patrol ship appeared. His research vessel, the Explorer, was conducting studies of Jupiter's moons, perfectly legal under the treaty, though close to the boundary of permitted space. "Concordat vessel approaching," his navigator announced. "They're hailing us." The alien commander's face appeared on screen. "Human ship Explorer, you have violated protected space. Power down and prepare for inspection." "This is within our permitted zone," Eric replied, showing the navigation charts. "We're conducting authorized research." "Your charts are outdated. The protection zone was expanded yesterday." Eric frowned. No such announcement had been made. "We'll return to Earth immediately. There's been a misunderstanding." Too late. The alien ship fired a pulse that disabled the Explorer's systems. "You will be detained for security evaluation." Within minutes, armored Concordat soldiers boarded the Explorer. They seized research data and placed restraints on the crew. "This is a violation of our treaty," Eric protested as they were marched onto the Concordat ship. "Your species has been detected developing prohibited technologies," the commander replied coldly. "The treaty is under review." Back on Earth, the news of the Explorer's capture spread quickly through government channels. In the White House Situation Room, President Helen Carter listened to the Concordat's official explanation. "They claim our ship violated their security zone and was conducting illegal technology scans," Ryan Phillips reported. "They're demanding we halt all space activities pending a full investigation." "And the real reason?" the president asked. Jack Miller stepped forward. "Our intelligence suggests they've discovered some of our reverse engineering efforts. This is a pretense to increase restrictions." "What are our options?" "Diplomatically, we can protest through official channels," Ryan said. "But they're holding 12 crew members, including Dr. Eric Foster, whose genetics research they've shown particular interest in." "And militarily?" the president asked. "We have the stealth vessel Nighthawk," Jack replied. "Small, fast, with reverse-engineered Concordat technology. Could reach their orbital station undetected. A rescue mission would violate the treaty," the defense secretary warned. The president looked at the images of the captured crew. "They'd violated it first. Prepare the Nighthawk. I want those people back." 48 hours later, Commander Frank Woods led a team of 6 special operators aboard the Nighthawk. The black vessel, barely visible even to advanced sensors, approached the massive Concordat prison station orbiting Mars. "Docking in 3 minutes," the pilot whispered. "Their patrol schedule gives us a 20-second window." Frank checked his weapons, conventional firearms enhanced with reverse-engineered Concordat power systems. "Remember, non-lethal when possible. Primary objective is our people. Secondary is intelligence gathering." The Nighthawk locked onto an emergency airlock, bypassing main security. Frank's team moved silently through the station, following schematics developed from stolen Concordat data. They'd reached the detention level and disabled 2 guards with targeted EMP pulses. Inside the cell block, they found not only the Explorer crew but prisoners from other worlds. "Dr. Foster," Frank whispered, deactivating the cell field. "Time to go home." Eric looked stunned. "There are others here, Centaurians, Rigellians, all from primitive worlds who resisted Concordat control." A tall, insectoid being approached. "You are humans?" "The new species." Frank nodded cautiously. "Take this." The alien handed Eric a small crystal. "Data on Concordat weaknesses from 30 worlds. We've been gathering it for generations." Alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. "We've been detected," Frank's tactical officer reported. "Security forces converging." "Release all prisoners," Frank ordered, overriding the cell controls. "They deserve a chance too." As chaos erupted throughout the station, the team fought their way back to the Nighthawk, bringing Eric and the Explorer crew along with several alien prisoners who possessed critical information. The Nighthawk detached just as Concordat cruisers arrived, barely escaping into Earth's defensive perimeter. President Carter watched the ship land safely, then turned to her communications director. "Prepare an address to the world. The Concordat has revealed its true intentions, and Earth will not submit." Across the solar system, the message was clear. Humanity's patience had run out. Laura Bennett never expected to help lead Earth's resistance against an alien empire. Yet here she was, deep in the underground complex beneath the Rocky Mountains, modifying human weapons with alien technology. "Will it work?" General Harris asked, watching Laura adjust the rifle's power core. "In theory," she replied, connecting the final circuit. "The Concordat shields are calibrated to stop their own energy weapons and basic projectiles. This hybrid should penetrate both." 3 weeks had passed since the rescue mission. The Concordat had responded by blocking Earth's communications with other planets and establishing an orbital blockade. "No ships in, no ships out. Test it," the general ordered. Laura aimed at the target, a section of Concordat armor. She fired. The rifle discharged a standard bullet surrounded by an energy field that disrupted shield harmonics. The round punched through the armor cleanly. "Mass production begins tomorrow," Laura said. "Every soldier gets one." Elsewhere in the complex, William Chen was training special forces in new combat tactics. His background in martial arts and physics had led to innovative approaches against the physically stronger but less adaptable Concordat soldiers. "They rely on strength and technology," William explained to his team. "We use speed, unpredictability, and their weaknesses against them." The soldiers practiced moves that targeted the aliens' poor peripheral vision and sensitivity to high-frequency sounds, weaknesses discovered from the data retrieved during the rescue mission. Meanwhile, in the diplomatic wing, Ryan Phillips coordinated with representatives from other worlds affected by Concordat control. The crystal from the prison station had contained communication protocols that allowed Earth to bypass the blockade and reach other resistant planets. 12 worlds have joined our coalition," Ryan reported during the daily briefing. "Most are providing intelligence. 3 are smuggling resources through Concordat blind spots." President Carter nodded. "And our ships?" Jack Miller displayed the tactical map. "The Defiance is complete and hidden in the asteroid belt. 5 smaller vessels are stationed on the far side of Mars. We're building more at the underwater facility near Easter Island." The ships represented humanity's greatest technological achievement, vessels combining Earth ingenuity with reverse-engineered Concordat systems. They weren't as advanced as pure Concordat ships, but they had advantages: unpredictable performance, innovative weapon configurations, and crews trained to think creatively. "The Concordat has issued their final warning," Ryan said. "They're demanding we dismantle all space capabilities and accept direct oversight of our technology development. Deadline is 48 hours. "Their scans show we're complying," Kate Williams noted. "The decoy facilities are showing reduced activity, while our real operations remain hidden." Susan Garcia joined them, bringing findings from her work with the alien prisoners. "We've identified why they're so interested in human genetics. Unlike most species they've encountered, humans adapt through both technology and biology. Our immune systems, stress responses, and reproductive rates concern them." "They fear we'll outbreed them?" the president asked. "They fear we'll outlast them," Susan corrected. "Most Concordat species reproduce slowly and adapt poorly to new environments. They rely entirely on technology for survival." A communication officer interrupted. "Madam President, we're receiving transmissions from the Proxima Centauri resistance. The Concordat is pulling ships from their sector to reinforce Earth's blockade. They're preparing for invasion," Jack concluded. The president looked at her team. "Then we strike first. Activate the coalition fleet. Launch Operation Prometheus." Throughout the solar system, hidden human ships powered up. On distant worlds, resistance fighters prepared diversionary attacks. Earth's ground forces moved to defensive positions with their hybrid weapons. Laura watched the activity from her workshop window. A technician paused beside her. "Do we really have a chance?" he asked. "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours." Laura smiled grimly. "Technology isn't everything. Throughout history, supposedly primitive forces have defeated advanced ones through adaptation and determination. In orbit, the first Concordat ships began moving into invasion formation, unaware that humanity was no longer the passive, compliant species they had first encountered. The resistance had begun. The Concordat fleet descended toward Earth like metal rain. Hundreds of ships, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight, moved into attack formation. Their commander, Vrital, watched the blue planet with 4 cold eyes. "Begin the peacekeeping operation," he ordered. "Disable their defense systems first, then deploy ground forces. Minimal casualties if possible. Their genetic material is valuable." On the bridge of the Defiance, hidden just beyond lunar orbit, Commander Olivia Martinez watched the invasion unfold. "They're following standard Concordat assault protocols," her tactical officer reported. "Exactly as the Centaurian data predicted." Olivia nodded. "Wait until their main force commits, then spring the trap." The Concordat ships launched their first attack wave. Energy weapons targeted satellite networks and ground-based defenses. To their surprise, many targets were already empty or projected holographic decoys. "Something's wrong," Vrital said, studying the readings. "Their defense network isn't responding as expected." That's when Earth struck back. Hidden missile platforms on the moon activated, launching hundreds of Laura's hybrid projectiles. The weapons penetrated Concordat shields calibrated to stop pure energy attacks, exploding against the hulls of 20 ships. "Now," Olivia ordered. The Defiance and its escort ships appeared from behind the moon, using a gravity slingshot to accelerate directly into the Concordat formation. They fired weapons unlike anything the aliens had encountered, combinations of Earth and Concordat technology that defied standard defense protocols. Vrital stared in shock as his ships began falling out of formation. "Impossible. Their technology is primitive." On the ground, the Concordat landing forces faced their own surprises. General Daniel Harris had prepared Earth's defenders with Williams' combat tactics and Laura's hybrid weapons. As the aliens emerged from their transports, they confronted soldiers who understood their weaknesses intimately. "Target their vision centers and communication devices," Harris ordered through the tactical network. "Move unpredictably. Use sound dispersal grenades." The Concordat soldiers, expecting to face primitive resistance, instead encountered a force that exploited every weakness in their biology, technology, and tactics. Human soldiers moved with unexpected speed and coordination, using fighting styles the Concordat's combat computers couldn't predict. In orbit, Olivia's fleet executed maneuvers that defied conventional space combat logic. The Defiance twisted between enemy vessels in patterns no Concordat commander would attempt, firing at point-blank range before accelerating away. "They're adapting to our attack pattern," Olivia's second-in-command warned. "Then change it," she replied. "Tell all captains, Plan Chaos is in effect." Each Earth ship immediately began operating independently, following no discernible pattern or formation. This complete tactical flexibility, something the hierarchical Concordat couldn't comprehend, threw their coordinated response into disarray. Vrital watched in growing horror as a third of his fleet was disabled or destroyed. How are they doing this? Their ships shouldn't be capable of such maneuvers. The answer came when an Earth boarding team, led by Frank Woods, captured a Concordat cruiser. The Special Forces team used their training in microgravity combat to overwhelm the alien crew, who relied heavily on powered armor and predictable tactics. "Cruiser Dauntless is secured," Frank reported back to command. "We're accessing their weapons and navigation systems now." The captured ship turned its weapons against its former allies, causing further confusion among the Concordat forces who couldn't comprehend this level of battlefield adaptation. By nightfall, the invasion had stalled completely. 7 major Concordat landing zones had been contained. In orbit, nearly half their fleet was damaged or captured. The remaining ships regrouped at the far side of the moon. In his command center, General Harris received reports from around the world. Casualties. Lower than expected, his aide reported. Their weapons were designed to subdue, not kill. They wanted captives, not corpses. Harris nodded grimly. Their mistake. On the Defiance, Olivia Martin is prepared for the next phase. The Concordat is regrouping, but they're confused. Their entire battle doctrine is based on technological superiority and rigid hierarchy. They don't know how to fight an enemy who improvises. She looked at the tactical display showing Earth's forces already adapting their equipment and tactics based on the day's battle. And that, she said quietly, is why they'll lose this war. Julie Peterson stepped onto the bridge of the captured Concordat cruiser, now renamed Liberty. 3 months had passed since the failed invasion of Earth, and humanity had moved from defense to offense. Status report, she asked the communications officer. 7 more worlds have joined the coalition. Ambassador, that makes 23 in total. Julie nodded, studying the star map displaying the growing rebellion against Concordat rule. After Earth's successful defense, news had spread rapidly through the subjugated worlds. Species that had lived under Concordat control for generations now saw hope for the first time. The Regellians are sending their shipbuilders, the officer continued. The Centaurians have deployed sabotage teams to Concordat supply depots. And the weapons distribution? Julie asked. Laura Bennett's designs have been shared with all coalition forces. Production is underway on 12 worlds. In the command center on Mars, Admiral Greg Martins, formerly Commander Olivia Martinez before her promotion, was planning the next offensive. The room buzzed with activity as officers from Earth and allied species worked together. The Concordat still outguns us 10-1, his Centaurian advisor noted. They're pulling forces from their outer territories to contain this rebellion. Greg smiled. Numbers aren't everything. Show me their supply lines. The holographic display shifted to show Concordat logistics routes. Greg pointed to 3 key junctions. Here, here, and here. Their ships must pass through these points to reach the front. We hit all 3 simultaneously. A bold strategy, the Centaurian replied. Their response will be severe. Their response will be predictable, Greg corrected. That's their weakness. The Liberty Coalition, as it now called itself, had discovered the fundamental flaw in Concordat military doctrine: rigid adherence to established protocols. Thousands of years of technological superiority had made them inflexible against humans who had spent their entire history adapting and innovating. This weakness proved fatal. On the Concordat homeworld, the High Council was in crisis. These humans must be contained, shouted Councillor Draffmore. They're spreading their rebellion throughout our territories. Ambassador Xeltoth, who had first contacted Earth, shook his head. We underestimated them severely. Their classification as primitive was based solely on their technology level, not their adaptive capacity. The military reports they're calling humans the unstoppable ones now. Another counselor noted, our forces fear them. The humans fight in ways our tactical computers cannot predict. On a distant mining world, Vrital, demoted after his failure at Earth, watched as his garrison fell to a coalition attack. The human-designed weapons cut through Concordat defenses. The mixed-species rebel forces moved with a creativity and flexibility his troops couldn't match. Surrender, suggested his second-in-command. The humans treat prisoners well. Vrital had no choice. His forces were surrounded. He activated the white signal beacon. Across Concordat space, similar scenes played out as the rebellion gained momentum. Liberty Coalition fleets struck without warning, using tactics no Concordat commander could anticipate. Worlds that had been subjugated for centuries rose up, adopting human strategies of asymmetric warfare. Back on Earth, Jack Miller met with President Carter and the coalition leadership. The Concordat is splintering, he reported. Reform factions are calling for negotiation. The hardliners are losing influence. And our capabilities, the president asked. Kate Williams stepped forward. Our technology has advanced dramatically. By combining our innovation with Concordat principles, we've created systems that exceed their expectations. Most importantly, Susan Garcia added, we've formed genuine partnerships with other species. Unlike the Concordat's hierarchy, our coalition is built on equality. On the bridge of Earth's newest battleship, Resilience, Admiral Greg Martinez prepared for the operation that would bring the Concordat to the negotiating table. Fleet captains from 7 species awaited his orders. The Concordat believed technological advancement was the only measure of civilization, Greg told them. They failed to understand that adaptability, creativity, and cooperation are far more powerful. He looked at the diverse faces on his view screen. Former enemies, now allies, united by humanity's example. Launch Operation Liberty, he ordered. Let's show them why they call us the Unstoppable Ones. The ships jumped to light speed, carrying with them humanity's greatest export, not technology, but hope and the unquenchable spirit of freedom. The Concordat Grand Hall, silent for thousands of years, echoed with the voices of dozens of species. High Council members sat uncomfortably at a round table, a human design that replaced their traditional hierarchical seating arrangement. Admiral Greg Martinez and Ambassador Julie Peterson led the Earth delegation, joined by representatives from the Liberty Coalition. 1 year had passed since the decisive Battle of Regulus, where the combined coalition forces had defeated the last major Concordat fleet. The conflict that began with first contact had reshaped galactic politics forever. The treaty before us ends 5,000 years of Concordat dominance, Julie said, addressing the assembly. It establishes the new Galactic Council where all species have equal representation. Zeltoth, now leading the reform faction of the Concordat, nodded slowly. We recognize the errors of our past. The classification system that labeled worlds as primitive based solely on technology blinded us to other forms of advancement. Greg looked around the room at their allies, the insectoid Centaurians, the crystalline Regelians, the amorphous Deltans, all species once dismissed as primitive by the Concordat, now standing as equals. Humanity didn't seek this war, Greg said, but we will ensure the peace serves everyone. After the signing ceremony, Jack Miller walked with Kate Williams through the Concordat capital city. Buildings that once displayed symbols of dominance now featured the new Galactic Council emblem, a spiral of stars representing unity and diversity. Did you ever imagine this outcome when they first arrived? Kate asked. Jack smiled. Not specifically, but I knew they underestimated us from the beginning. On Earth, cities were being rebuilt with a combination of human ingenuity and alien technology. The hybrid approach, taking the best of Concordat knowledge while improving it with human innovation, created systems more advanced than either civilization could have developed alone. Laura Bennett supervised the installation of a new planetary defense grid. The technology incorporated designs from 7 different species, creating a system no single approach could overcome. The beauty is in the combination, she explained to visiting dignitaries. No 2 components work the same way. That's our strength. In the research center near Geneva, Susan Garcia worked alongside scientists from across the galaxy. The genetic studies once used to classify and contain species now focused on medical advances and environmental restoration. Humans showed us that biological and technological evolution can complement each other, said her Centaurian colleague. The Concordat believed technology must replace biology. You proved both can advance together. President Carter addressed the United Nations as reports came in from coalition worlds. Former mining planets were recovering their ecosystems. Subjugated species were rebuilding their cultures. Trade routes once controlled by the Concordat now flowed freely. We stand at the beginning of a new era, she said, not as conquerors, but as catalysts for change. In deep space, William Ken commanded Earth's first exploration vessel beyond Concordat-mapped territory. His crew included members of 12 species, each bringing unique perspectives and abilities. New star system detected, his navigator announced. Preliminary scans show signs of civilization. William nodded. Standard first contact protocol. We approach openly, transmit peaceful intentions in all frequencies. The old Concordat would have assessed their technology level first, his Rigelian science officer noted. We do things differently, William replied. Every civilization has value beyond its technology. Back at the Galactic Council headquarters, Ambassador Julie Peterson met with former Commander Vrital, now a liaison for integration efforts. Your species still confounds me, Vrital admitted. You advanced centuries within a year. Julie shook her head. We didn't advance. We adapted. That's what humans have always done. The term spreads throughout the galaxy now. Vrital said. The unstoppable ones. Many species feared it would mean a new empire replacing the Concordat. Instead, it means something else, Julie replied. Not unstoppable in conquest, but in spirit, in finding ways to overcome challenges, in refusing to accept limitations. As dusk fell on the new galactic capital, Admiral Greg Martinez stood on a balcony overlooking a city where dozens of species now lived and worked as equals. Ships from across the galaxy moved through the skies, no longer separated by artificial classifications of advanced and primitive. They called Earth primitive, Greg said quietly. Now they understand that true advancement isn't measured by technology alone, but by how we use it to lift each other up. The stars above shimmered with possibility as humanity and its allies began writing a new chapter in galactic history, one where the unstoppable ones became known not for their power, but for their wisdom in using it.